Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where as you can see, we are heading in yet again here. But look at how slow we're going. 1,600 meters per second, and we're at 85 kilometers at this point. This is by far the slowest we've gone, and I'll show you how we got there. But first, I want to run this test through to completion. This is definitely going to be a new record. We're already achieving the record. So that's absolutely great. And there's even a couple of things we can do to further optimize this and get ourselves pushed just that little bit further if we end up needing it. The question is, will we need it? The other question is, what will happen? Like, what is our overall desired attitude as we're coming in here? Like, obviously, we don't want to lose attitude when we're going so fast that we're going to burn up, right? That's an obvious thing that we don't want. The real question, though, isn't what attitude we can hold for that. The question is, what attitude will we be in if we're going slowly enough to not burn up? And at this point, that's an open question. So we're currently at about 80 kilometers. This frame rate is really not great, but we do have some drag going on from our heat shields here, and we're continuing to decelerate. You can see how much fuel we have here. Now, there's an empty engine spot here. That engine got destroyed by a detachment earlier, and I would like to fix that. It was mirrored on this side, so it wasn't actually a problem, but we have a little bit lower thrust to weight than we could have at this point. And we also were carrying a little more weight than we needed to at the beginning of this. So that is definitely something to think about. But look at how slow we are. 1,500 meters per second, 77 kilometers up. That's huge. We're getting to the point now where the atmosphere is starting to provide a considerable amount of drag, but we're still primarily slowing down via our engines here. So that looks absolutely fine. We've got a lot of fuel left, so we want to let that continue to burn. And the question is, will this get slow enough to not burn up this time? That would be really nice. I would be delighted to be done with this section. It has gone on for way too long. The atmosphere of Eve in KSP2 is extremely strange, though, at least compared to KSP1. I think I've got a pretty decent handle on how it works, hopefully, and we'll see. So we're down to about 74 kilometers at this point. I do expect us to lose attitude, but one big question is, will we lose attitude before or after we run out of fuel on this braking burn? I added the extra ring of engines up here because we were losing attitude too soon, so I wanted to slow us down further by increasing our thrust to weight. So that was the overall idea behind that. But look at this. 72 kilometers of altitude, traveling at 1,400 meters per second. This is a significant reduction, and there are several things that we can do to make this even stronger of a reduction. So that's looking good for now. We're crossing 70 kilometers. We've got a ways to go before we start running into attitude loss. And if we're going slowly enough, in theory, we might never hit attitude loss, and that would be phenomenal. Now, what are we over right now? We are over foothills. Okay, so we're definitely going to want to have this splashdown. We'll see if that happens here, but this isn't the quote-unquote real setup, right? So that is absolutely fine. Excellent. 1,350 meters per second as we cross below 68 kilometers of altitude. This is looking very good so far. This is by far the slowest we've been going at this point in the atmosphere. And if we cut the engines right now, we would definitely be accelerating. We are not at terminal velocity at this current altitude. I'm hoping that we'll be very, very, very close to terminal velocity when our fuel runs out. That would be the idea. The next question is, how do we go about getting a good detachment off of these? And that is something we could potentially tackle. In KSP1, I'd probably look to put on some like Separatrons that would just push it away from us. In KSP 2, I don't know if that's a thing. I'll have to check. But for now, this is looking very solid. We're at 63 kilometers, down below 1,300 meters per second. We are a solid 200 meters per second below where we were on our previous best attempt at this point. So that is looking very, very good. Keep in mind, a large amount of our fuel at this point is going towards counteracting gravity rather than our speed. It's about 40%, I would say, of our fuel is currently going towards counteracting gravity, and that's understood. So let's continue to bring this in here. We can see that we are getting lower on fuel, and we still need to drop quite a ways before we start to be in danger of having an attitude loss. That said, I am noticing our current pitch, but our speed is so much slower that I suspect we'll be okay. I don't know that for a fact, but I suspect that all of these parts can withstand heating at this speed, at this altitude. In theory, we might not even need the heat shields, but I'm keeping them around specifically for drag. Not so much for the heat shield component at this point, but heat shields have a very large amount of surface area and they create a lot of drag for us. But we have dropped down below 1,200 meters per second. That looks phenomenal. And we're still at 56 kilometers. So all is looking pretty decent here. This is by far our best run yet, and as I said, there are several optimizations that we can still make to this setup that we could use to further stretch our performance, some amount. I'm not sure what that amount is, but some amount. We are going to run out of fuel soon, and we'll see if we immediately lose attitude when we run out of fuel. I don't want to jettison these because I think that this is just going to come straight back and take out some of these heat shields. We're probably better off to utilize the drag from the air brakes and this heat shield and just the engines in general for now. So that is going to be what we're going to do for the moment until probably we no longer care about the heat shield. Okay, what biome are we over right now? Still foothills. Noted. That's fine. So we're at about 51 kilometers. We're starting to see an engine heating here. That's fine. We just used all of our fuel. And you can see here we are definitely increasing in speed. The question is, for how long? For how long, indeed. So this might have been a little bit too high to start the burn. I started the burn at 109 kilometers. We might want to drop it down to 100 kilometers again, and then start the burn. But let's see how much speed we build up here. Actually, this is starting to go down again. That's not too bad. 1128. Noted. Okay. So let's see what happens with our attitude. We're going to lose engines on either side. That's fine. Those engines are no longer necessary. So losing those engines, I'm not too concerned about, although it will cause some uneven drag here. We'll see if we're able to handle that. Is that going to take out a heat shield, that engine? We'll find out here in a moment once the game gets caught up. So this is indicative that we definitely do, in fact... Okay, that's not going to take it out, but we are pitching. Let's see if that's indeed a problem. I mean, we know that we're having some issues with some struts there. But we're going under 1,100 meters per second at this point. This is by far the best attempt we've had so far. Let's try to hold this at prograde, I think. I don't think we're going to succeed. That's very interesting. Let's pass around prograde and try to hold at retrograde again. We're definitely tumbling. Are we able to survive that, though? It seems like that was a survivable tumble. It wants to bring us back around. This fuel tank is a problem. We've had that fuel tank give us issues in the past. Okay. So this is all noted. This is much more survivable at this point. We knew that we were going to have a tumble here. I'm actually just going to turn our SAS off for right now. I want to see where this wants to sit. We're going at about 900 meters per second here, and that's still causing us overheat at this altitude. So that's going to be this fuel tank going away, and this fuel tank has caused us a number of issues. So that's definitely by far our best run. 897.1, and this is still significant heating issues. Okay, so we're losing some control out over here. That's noted. At any moment now, the game will get caught up. I'm not exactly sure what the characteristics of this are. This looks bad down here. I am surprised that we're still having this significant of a heating issue this low in the atmosphere, and this slow, more specifically. 886.5 meters per second shouldn't be causing this sort of heating issue, in my opinion, at least based on, like, the example set by KSP1. So, obviously, this is very low frame rate, right? No doubt about that. It's falling apart, but the question is, how bad is this really? So this was losing some of these struts out over here. Okay. I mean, as far as a catastrophic failure goes, I've seen worse. This is right on the cusp of being survivable. So really, what we'd want to do here is we would want, at this point, to jettison this. Like that. And we'd want to try to fly this from here. So SAS would go on, and we would put this into prograde. And we try to get this under control. To be clear, I don't think we're going to succeed. I'm also going to... Oh, we lost that fuel tank. Okay. So yeah, that one fuel tank right there is very regularly a problem. That was incredibly close to being survivable, though. So let's revert that back to the VAB, and I'll show you what we've got going on here. It's nothing particularly special, but it definitely got us to the point of being just below the threshold of survivability. And we can definitely make some changes here. So, change number 1. Let's open this up. As soon as the VAB opens, I'll show you exactly what we've got going on here and exactly what these changes are going to be. KSP2 is a very, very finished game, as you can tell by this speed at which we can do things. Very finished. Okay, so we're going to come out over here, and basically all I did was I duplicated this tank, did not add this outer ring because I didn't want to burn out the fuel quite that quickly, but we have these guys, and we can ditch the air brakes, we can ditch this heat shield as well, and save ourselves a fair amount of weight. This will let us push ourselves just that little bit further. And I have to turn the camera to be able to delete it. Excellent. Eventually the game will get caught up. Okay, there we go. Now I have to turn the camera to be able to delete it. This is a very finished game. Extremely finished. Turn the camera, and now we can delete it. I have no idea what's going on with that. It's very strange. Okay. There we go. So we're just going to get rid of all of these. This is just unnecessary mass, because this all gets jettisoned before we end up entering the atmosphere. So it doesn't generate us any drag at all. It is just a drain on our resources. So we're not going to keep that around. Let's get rid of all of this. And that'll save us a decent amount of weight, actually. That heat shield alone was like 40 tons. So let's definitely save that weight and allow our engines to propel us just that little bit further. Now, the next problem is that this comes in and takes out this engine when we decouple. So, the question is, do we have any, like, Separatrons? We do. Okay. So we would use, as soon as the game gets caught up anyway, no? Not radial decouplers. I want Separatrons. Thank you. Okay. So we would use these guys. I'm going to have this be in mirrored mode, and we're going to angle this in this direction. Yes. So I'm going to do 1, 2. This is angling the wrong way. Cool. So we need to get this rotated around. I don't know why KSP2 does that, where it doesn't respect the rotation. It's very strange, but whatever. We're going to grab another Separatron here. As soon as the game gets caught up, we're in a garbage collection spike right now. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to put this one about here. That looks like that's facing the right way. Then we're going to move this up over to here. About like that. Cool. Now, that should be mirrored on the other side, in theory, but the mirroring can be kind of broken in this game. Let's check it. Yeah, that looks decent. We can do the same thing on the underside, and we should. So I'm going to put one over here facing this way. And we'll see how much separation this actually gives us. It's probably not going to be a huge amount, but hopefully it'll be enough to not take out that engine. That would be nice. So then we'll put one up here. And where was that fourth one? Oh, this is facing the wrong way. Okay. Yeah. So this one should be up over here. Okay. So this guy's facing the wrong way. We're going to need to turn you around. There we go. And then we duplicate this. And we're going to put that one right there. Okay. So that should be 16. That is correct. And when we have... Okay, KSP. Anytime you want to get caught up, that would be great. It takes so much longer than it needs to because of this kind of thing. Okay. There we go. So at this point, we want... Let's see. What decoupler do we want? This one. We want this to fire at the same time that this goes. So all of these are going to be pushing directly away and hopefully give us a little bit of distance. We could do the same thing here to try to prevent this from coming back and taking out heat shields. It's a possibility, but for now, I want to see how this goes. So that'll be absolutely okay. The next goal here is to just get this out on the pad. But let's save this first. This can have issues, and if it has issues, we definitely want it saved. Otherwise, we're going to have to redo this. Let's see if we have issues. Because sometimes it doesn't actually get rid of the VAB for whatever reason. The VAB is, like, rendered over top of the runway. It's very strange. This is a kind of thing that would have been caught in, you know, any sort of stress testing, but whatever. Okay, looks like we're not having that issue here. That's good. And when it happens, it's reproducible. You have to change something in the craft to get it to go away. It's kind of wild. Okay, so we're going to put this up over Eve. Hopefully that works. It does. We've run into issues with that, too. There's very little in this game that we haven't run into issues with, to be honest. So, we're just going to place this up into orbit here. We're at 109 kilometers. I think that I do want to just burn from 109 or 110 kilometers. The other option, of course, is to drop us down a little bit further if our burn is ending too early. So that is definitely something to think about, but for now, this is going to be a thing. We're just going to burn this down, and it's going to take a while, and I will be back when this gets spicy. Okay, so here we are. Our engines just ran out on this outer tank, and let's see how this separation goes. This could be spicy. Here goes. I don't know how this is going to go. We're probably not going to get a bunch of separation thrust here. It's only 8 little separatrons, and that's a lot of mass. Yeah, that's not looking fantastic on that front, is it? Okay, so it looks like is that going underneath? Oh, that's weird. This just stretched way out. Did the same thing happen on the other side? So apparently that did save the engines, although it shouldn't have. So, there's that. Sure. So I guess that works. We'll see how reproducible that one is, but, okay. We'll take it for now. So you can see here, we're not even in the atmosphere yet. We're going to at 1 kilometer per second below orbital speed. We're going to hit the atmosphere pretty quick here, but I will be back once again when things start to get a little more spicy. See you guys in a moment. Okay, so here we are with it starting to get a little bit spicy. We're going to be running out of fuel here pretty soon, and we've held attitude thus far. We're about 63 kilometers above the ground, going at about 1,200 meters per second at this time. So I did have a thought that we could stage this slightly early and have these engines push these out and away this direction. That is a theoretical possibility. I am concerned if we pick up any sort of oscillation or atmospheric turbulence, I guess we could say, that this could get propelled into this tank, and it could theoretically destroy it. That would be something that would need to be tested. That would, of course, be a catastrophic failure here, and we would not prefer that that happens. But for now, let's just continue our deceleration. We may try that here in a little bit, once we're very close, but not quite out of fuel. So once we're down to maybe around, like, 1 ton of oxidizer remaining, that might be about the time to try that. We can give it a go, but if it fails, we would have to rerun this entire thing. That would be, of course, a bit problematic, but we've got 6 tons of oxidizer left. 4, 3, 2, and... okay, that staged a little bit on the late side, just due to the input latency at this frame rate. So that's not necessarily ideal, but it is pushing out that way. Okay. That does kind of work, I think. I did stage it a little bit on the late side. And of course, we are increasing our speed right now, and this, again, indicates that we should probably burn at a slightly lower altitude than 109, because we should be a bit lower in the atmosphere once our engines wear off. So this probably means that we should be sitting at somewhere like... okay, is this going to come back and take us out? I hope it doesn't. This is drifting in a worrisome direction. Very worrisome. So this would be something that would be solved by staging this slightly earlier. But we'll see if this causes significant issues. This is going to cause significant issues, isn't it? Yikes. Okay, this one's gonna miss, but this is gonna hit us dead on. So that is obviously problematic there. Why did this get destroyed just now? What? Okay. Well, that is clearly indicative that we need to do something about that staging. But I'm pretty content with the speed that we're going at here. Obviously, this is a problem. No doubt about that. And that is definitely a risk that I knew could happen if we staged this. So that is certainly a thing. I probably should have quick saved first. But I'm curious to see how this goes. So I'm going to pause this here. Well, actually, there's no point, because we know that this tank here got taken out by something. I don't know what it got taken out by, but it definitely got taken out by something. And it's clear that if we're going to do that, we're going to need this to burn for a while longer. So that is definitely a thing. Also, we could add Separatrons here to push it out and away, but the way that it came out and then drifted back this way is definitely very problematic. There is no doubt about that. So we could just keep it around and jettison it on the surface. That is also a theoretical option. But for now, I feel like we should do a slightly lower burn. We definitely learned that from this because we were building up speed for a while there. So we need to burn this a little lower. So the idea here, if we go back to the VAB, it's going to take a little bit to get that loaded in. But the idea here is that we need to change around our staging a little bit. And I don't think the Separatrons are really the way to go. I think we keep that around and jettison it at the same time as we jettison our heat shields. So I want to do some staging changing here, and we're going to use that braking engine to bring us down to 90. I'm going to try a burn there, and we'll see if that puts us at the correct altitude. It's going to be trial and error to try to figure out the correct altitude for this. But this is some incredible progress that we have made here. No doubt about that. We are making very, very solid progress. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to move this up to here, like that. And then that detaches, and that should be okay. This detachment should happen at the same time as our heat shields detach. So like that, in theory. Okay. I will run a test of this off camera, and hopefully next episode, we are getting ever closer. We're inching ever closer each and every one of these tests. This is feeling very manageable. If we can just slow this down 100 meters per second or so, that would be great. So I think burning lower would let us be closer to the terminal velocity when the engines shut off. And the question is, what is that terminal velocity altitude going to look like? So that'll be interesting. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings. And a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.